Hey friends, we've got some great glitch stories coming up. But before we start, let me thank you for choosing to listen to this. I am humbled. If you like glitch stories and other strange narrations, hit that subscribe button. You're the best. First glitch. Okay, so please read till the end. I swear you'll be glad you did. Do you remember those fleeting childhood moments that just stick in your brain? Yeah, well, I had a weird rerun of one such memory yesterday, and I'm starting to think it might have deeper implications. So, I thought I'd toss it here and see if anyone can understand what it means. When I was 9 or 10, I remember being sent to the store by my mom to pick up some groceries. On my way back, plastic bag in hand, I walked past a bus stop. There was a man waiting there. I don't remember what he looked like really, just a regular older man, but he had this magnetic aura that made him feel like an old friend or a member of the family. As I thought there was a possibility I was supposed to know who he was, and I didn't want to be rude, I couldn't help but glance at him as I walked by, trying to see if he recognized me. I didn't want to be rude to a family friend. That's when he looked me straight in the eyes and said, "You know, the sky is not the limit. This planet is." I remember being surprised, but also oddly mesmerized. Like, why would a random dude say something so deep to a 10-year-old? When I got home, I reported the incident to my mom. She, always the thinker, gave it some thought and said, maybe he meant that our own world, our own environment, limits us more than anything else. It's not the sky above, but the ground we walk on that holds us back. That interpretation made me think, and I've pondered over it ever since. So the story continues. Yesterday, I'm in the city center and it's just after 5, so there's a huge crowd. I'm trying to get to the station to catch a train home. Suddenly, in this sea of heads, I spot a young guy. He looks like he's in his 20s and has short black hair. He's climbed up on something, maybe a bench or a box, looking above everyone. For a split second, our eyes lock. He's staring intently at me. I'm about to look away, thinking maybe he mistook me for someone else, when his face lights up in recognition. He grins, almost ear to ear, and then quickly unbuttons his coat. Underneath, he's wearing a bright neon pink t-shirt with bold black letters proclaiming, "The sky is not the limit." It's that same phrase. Before I can react, his face grows somber, and he points downwards, emphasizing the earth beneath our feet. The message is clear. He jumps down and finds his way through the crowd and disappeared. And by the time I try to push through to get to him, he's nowhere to be seen. Is this a message I'm supposed to understand? This seems too much of a coincidence. If anyone's had something even remotely similar happen or has any idea about the meaning of it, please share. It feels significant and I want to unravel this enigma. Next glitch. This all happened in May of 2016, so it's still a very vivid memory in my mind. I live in the Roman suburbs, somewhere around 20 kilometers west of the city center. The road I live on is private and particularly secluded. It's a pretty quiet place populated by a few relatively large houses. I'd say on average, each house, including the garden, is about 4,000 square meters. As you can imagine, there can be quite some space between each house, which is an important detail for later. As usual, I invite some friends over for a smoke and a drink and a laugh. The night proceeds smoothly until about 2 a.m., when something rather peculiar happens. My kitchen has a very large sliding window facing onto the darkest side of my garden. Without a bright moon, if you looked outside the window, you'd be pretty much staring into pitch black. We're all inside the kitchen, next to the open sliding window, when all of a sudden we, or at least I, casually notice an almost imperceptible, unintelligible, distant babble, one you'd hear made by a crowd of around 15 to 20 people at a vibrant dinner party. I, of course, think nothing of it. In fact, I don't even think of it. I simply acknowledge it. It was, I think, a Saturday or a Friday night, so nothing unusual in a little party somewhere in the villas nearby. A few minutes, it may even have been seconds, passed by, and I'm surprised to notice that the voices have grown more distinct, clearer, as if the crowd had moved closer or was getting louder. I focus on the voices. I think this is when the tiniest alarm bells started ringing. I lose all interest in my friends and dedicate undivided attention to the voices when, after what must have been at least a minute, I notice they are getting louder, albeit infinitesimally slowly. I look around and it doesn't look like anyone else noticed. Typical paranoid me, I think, brushing it off as a silly trick played by my mind. I make my way back into the conversation and lose track of the voices for a good few minutes. Then it really struck me. The indistinct chatter now sounds like it's coming from the neighbor's house, but the neighbor is a good friend of mine, and I know he's with his family, visiting his wife's parents down in Sicily. What the hell? I can't help but telling my friends, and am pleasantly surprised to know that I'm not the only one who's noticed. At this point, everyone's questioning the voices. After all, we heard nothing whatsoever until no more than 10 minutes ago, and now there's undoubtedly a semi-party going on in the neighbor's garden. We're all debating the nature of this curious phenomenon when a friend I'm sitting next to squeezes my arm and tells me they're still getting closer, louder, silence among us. Now the voices are in the far end of my garden, down in the bottomless blackness. We flock to the window to get a peek, but see nothing, as anything down that side of the garden would be swallowed in darkness. We stare in vain, and again, the sounds move closer. As rattling as it seems, they now sound like they're directly out of my window. An invisible crowd casually chatting, as though standing together by the side of a pool in a fancy house. It's unsettling to say the least, especially considering there's no one actually there, just sound waves of undetermined origin. They're so unexplainably close to us that we can now effortlessly make out what all these people are saying, but it really is just small talk, meaningless dinner party blabber. Then silence. The noise stops, and I don't mean like whoever was producing it slowed down and gradually came to a halt. No, it's more like a CD player being paused or taking your earphones out of your ears. From one moment to another, the voices are brusquely stop and simply vanish in midair, leaving no traces behind, like they were never there. We're all spooked to the core at this point, and just spend the night talking about the incident, wondering if it could have been a collective auditory hallucination, a glitch in the matrix, an accidental rip in the space-time continuum. I often read that after an eerie or traumatizing experience shared with friends or family, people tend not to talk about the experience a lot, perhaps to remove it from their minds as soon as possible. Well, my friends and I have been talking about it relentlessly, and have shared it with many other people too, but no one can give a really compelling explanation. Next glitch. I stumbled upon this thread and I think it's the best place in the world to share this. Or maybe a UFO thread would be better. I'm not sure, you tell me. Here's what happened. Last year, I was in the car with my girlfriend and she was driving. I was daydreaming, just watching the road ahead. Suddenly, this huge round shadow started moving across the road right in front of us, shifting from our left to our right. My immediate thought was, that's a plane's shadow for sure. So I tried to look up to spot it. Now, being in the passenger seat, my movement was kind of limited, but I checked the right, left, did an awkward twist to look behind us. Nothing in sight. The super weird part, the shadow didn't just disappear. It kind of kept pace with us. We were cruising at about 70 miles per hour, but that shadow, it stayed right in front of us, just like a car that's ahead but moving at the exact same speed. Except, you know, this wasn't a car. It was a massive, unexplained shadow. I sort of stopped thinking about it after a while, but finding this thread made me think of it again. Does anyone have any idea what this was? Next glitch. Wow, so I have been pretty active on this Reddit, enjoying the stories and whatnot. But I never really had any of my own, aside from one minor one that was from my childhood that I never posted about. Well, yesterday, some kind of weird / coincidental / glitchy thing happened to me that totally reminded me of The Matrix. Yesterday was the second day of classes at my college, and I had a class that went until 10 p.m. It sucks. At about 9:50 we got out and I walked from the class building to my car. On my walk I noticed a little white baby bunny hopping along with me, almost following me, in the brush adjacent to the parking lot. Cute, I thought, and continued to my car. I got it, started it, and let it warm up. It was like 5 degrees outside. Anyhow, I put it in drive and began to drive through the lumpy, broken parking lot. The lot doesn't allow you to see very well. Cars are parked so closely together because of the nearby apartment complex in proximity to the university. So I'm driving down the major lane of the lot and had to come to a screeching halt. The little white bunny had jumped out in front of my car. I didn't want to smash the little guy. Not even 2 seconds later, I see a big truck, not a semi but a big truck for towing vehicles, sped across the lane in front of me in reverse. If that rabbit had not stopped me in my tracks, and I would have been T-boned by a large truck. I drive a small Mazda 3, going in reverse at a high speed, and then pancake between it and an apartment building. I was a little startled to say the least. When I looked around, no bunny. He could have easily just hopped away while I wasn't looking, but him disappearing just made the whole thing a little more unreal feeling. So if I never see that bunny again, thanks, little dude. When I got home, I instantly remembered the whole follow the white rabbit thing from the first movie. Pretty cool night for me. Next glitch. I want to share this thing that happened to me at work. It was like life did a copy-paste of my dream. Seriously. Okay, so I work in this manufacturing site, right? I'm an apprentice electronics engineer. What that means in layman's terms is that I'm the guy who fixes the gadgets and gizmos when they get messed up on the line. Usually the job's as interesting as watching paint dry, but it pays the bills, and you gotta start somewhere. I gotta preface this by saying that I usually have super weird dreams. I mean aliens playing basketball with dinosaurs type of weird. But this one night I had a dream that was boringly normal. I dreamed about work, like my real work, real people, real voices, real place, you name it. In the dream, one of the ladies on the line messes up some wiring on a device. The device fails the tests and gets sent to us for repair. Our lead engineer, he's just the oldest guy around who knows how to fix things, tries to figure it out but can't. He hands it off to us apprentices to troubleshoot. In the dream, I find the wiring issue, fix it, and everyone's happy. The team lead even comes over and thanks me for saving the day. A few days later, it happens. I mean, it actually happens. The same lady screws up the same way, the device lands on our table, and the lead engineer can't figure it out. The freaky part? I didn't even have to look. I knew what was wrong because it happened in my dream. It was like a literal identical replay, except the part where I didn't have to look for the issue because I already knew. I go ahead and fix it, feeling kind of like I'm in the Twilight Zone or something. The lead engineer is happy, the team lead comes over and thanks me, and I'm left standing there wondering if I'm going nuts. So now I'm scratching my head. Like, did I dream the future? I don't know, guys, but I can tell you, It's left me and the lead engineer. I told him about the dream later. Super spooked. He keeps joking that I should dream about lottery numbers next. I don't know if anyone reading this has had such dreams. It's like my brain pulled a prank on me, but also gave me a cheat code for the day. Next glitch. I'm not the best storyteller, so please bear with me. I moved to my new place about a year ago. You know how chaotic moving is, right? Anyway, my old roommate gave me this plant as a moving away gift. I really loved that plant, but somewhere during the move, it went missing. I thought maybe I'd left it behind, or it had been misplaced. After a few months of not finding it, I kinda just moved on, I guess. Last weekend, I'm finally getting around to clearing out the last of the boxes in the garage. I know, I'm a major procrastinator. I get to this corner that's been boxed in, and what do I find? The missing plant. The thing is, the plant was thriving. Like it looked even better than when I last saw it. Healthier, taller, greener. And the soil? It felt just the right amount of damp, as if it had been watered recently. But I know for a fact that I hadn't watered it, nor had anyone else, since I live alone and nobody enters my garage. Plus, there was no sunlight there at all. It was behind piles of boxes, literally boxed into the corner. Anyway, fellow readers, what's going on? Can plants survive without light and water for like almost a year? Is this some super plant? I'm just really confused and low-key creeped out. What could possibly be happening here? Really hoping some plant experts, or I don't know, freaky stuff expert can help a guy out here. Next glitch. I've got this weird story that happened back in the mid-90s that I've got to share. It still messes with my mind, and my friend said maybe you all could help me make sense of it. So one night I'm kicked back watching TV. I think it was an episode of Friends or something. I drift off. I wake up and it's like 2 a.m. and the TV is still on. My dog, a golden retriever named Sandy, was whining at the door. He needed to go out. No big deal, right? So I get up to let him out, and that's when I notice what's playing on the TV. It's some guy in a suit sitting in what looks like a news studio. He's talking about the internet or something. I was like, oh cool, internet stuff. Because you have to remember the internet was pretty new back then. I wasn't even sure how to use email, to be honest. Anyway, I let Sandy back in. He trots over to the TV and just barks once. Now I swear to you, it looked like the TV guy jumped a little as if he heard the bark. He paused his sentence and everything. I laughed. I thought, wow, what timing, huh? But then Sandy barks again, louder and more aggressive this time, and y'all, I kid you not, the TV guy jumps, looks at the dog, but he does it in this weird way. Like he's trying to not let us notice he's looking, as if he's trying to maintain the illusion that he's just a guy on a screen and can't interact with us. That's when the freakiest part happened. The TV just turns off, like completely shuts down. I tried turning it back on, changing the batteries in the remote, even smacking the side of the TV, you know how that used to fix stuff, but nothing. It was dead. I looked at Sandy, and he had this sort of concerned look on his face, like he was as confused as I was. We went to bed, but I don't think either of us slept well that night. The next day, the TV worked just fine. No explanation. Never saw that show or that guy on TV again either. I searched for it a few times but got nothing. Yeah, that's my story. Sandy's no longer with us, but I know he'd want answers too. So if you have any idea, explanation, or theory, drop a comment. Hey, you've made it to the end. Thank you so much for listening. If you liked it, why not hit that like button? See you next time then. Yet among the multitude some stand apart, curious minds with a seeker's heart. They question each pixel, each pre-written fate, spontaneous spirits who challenge the state. With eyes wide open, they begin to see the inconsistencies, the anomalies,